Good morning and good afternoon. This is the Asylum Answers Show. I'm Brian Manning. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now I'm an asylum lawyer. My law firm is called Political Asylum Lawyers. That's what we do all day, every day is asylum. We help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. We're laser focused on asylum. We do asylum all day, every day. And I want to answer your questions about winning asylum in the United States. Hey, TikTok, baby gal, thanks for being with us. YouTube, what's going on? Good to see you here over in the chat. Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're watching from. It's December 30th. We're closing out the year, and gosh, it's been hectic, hasn't it? It's been a tough year for immigrants with the Trump administration, Trump 2.0, being incredibly aggressive with enforcement actions, with rounding people up, arresting people, and deporting people, including to El Salvador and other places where people are definitely not safe, and with policy changes that are making it harder to win asylum. And just let's be completely honest and blunt about it. It's harder than ever to win asylum, and it's only going to keep getting harder. Okay. Approval rates, I fully expect approval rates will just keep going down under the Trump administration. But the good news, it's not impossible. It's harder and it's going to keep getting harder, but it's not impossible. My office has won many cases under this Trump 2.0 administration, both at the asylum office and in immigration court. And I'm telling you, we're going to keep winning cases. Don't give up. If you work hard, if you are strategic in putting your case together and you get the right support, the right help, you can win your case. It's not impossible. All right. So keep the faith, maintain the faith. What questions do you have about winning asylum in the United States? I want to know what you want to know. I want to answer your questions. So go ahead and leave them in the comments. But first, before you leave those comments, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Love to see where you guys are at, where this community of asylum seekers is at. Do you do interviews? Bob the Cats wants to know on TikTok. What do you mean? Do I do it? Like, do we help people with interviews? Absolutely. Absolutely. We love helping people, supporting them through their interviews. But look, Bob the Cat's much more important um, than representing people at the interview is helping people prepare for their interview. That's the most important part. Okay. Um, Look, people understandably have a lot of questions about, how to do a good job with their application form, answering the questions in the application form, how to do a good job in writing a declaration, how to get good evidence, all this stuff, right? And that stuff's important. Same as, having a legal brief from a lawyer, helping you out, that can help as well in your case. Um, but none of that is as important as what you say on the day of your interview. Your testimony, meaning what you say at the day of your interview, is the most important part of your case by far. I say this based on my experience of 11 years working for the government's two main agencies for refugee and asylum matters. And now, as the owner of an immigration law firm that has been focused on asylum for the last 6 years, almost 6 years, we're turning six in a few weeks here. Um, I say this with confidence. What really matters by far more than anything else is your testimony. And the good news, friends, the good news is that you can practice for this. Okay. You can practice for your interview, and you can improve your performance by practicing strategically. Okay. Speaking of which, um, I made a course, well, not a course, a webinar, like a web class tutorial online. It's free if you want to check it out. It's about the asylum interview. Okay, it's things that I've learned based on my experience on the other side of the desk, and now as an asylum lawyer. I've got this webinar at asylumprep.com. Okay, you can find this free training at asylumprep.com. Go to the URL asylumprep.com, asylumprep.com, asylumprep.com. Hey, Albina, we got Albina says, hello, watching from Boston over on YouTube, TikTok. Good morning, good afternoon. How are you? Nice. Good to see you. Good to see you. Who we got? Who we got? Um, Midnight. Can I please tell you about fiance visas? No, not really, because It's not what I do. I don't know it very well. It's not what, my law firm doesn't handle that kind of cases. We are laser focused on asylum. Look, we also do green cards, but just for asylees, just for people that got asylum and now they're transitioning from asylum to apply for their green card. We help with that, but only for asylees. We don't do immigration based on family cases. We don't do it based on employment or investment. We are laser focused on asylum. That's what we do all day, every day. All right. Watching from Virginia. Asylum granted 8 months ago. When can I file for a green card application? Med Uslim wants to know. Thanks for the question. The question is this: when should you apply for your green card after you win asylum? Look, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about winning asylum from the asylum office or granted by an immigration judge. In both cases, the good news is that you can apply right away. And I think you should apply for your green card right away. Look, it used to be the case that you had to wait 1 year. You don't have to wait a year anymore. USCIS has clarified this policy. You do not have to wait 1 year before applying, okay? They can't actually grant your green card, give it to you until you have been waiting, until you've been here for 1 year after winning asylum. However, you can and should apply right away because then you're getting in the queue. Because look, there's a line, there's a queue to get into before they can adjudicate this green card application. And if you wait a year and then apply, well, you're just then getting in the queue after 1 year. And then you might have to wait a year or 2 or 3, however long the queue is. But if you apply now, right after you win asylum, you're getting in the queue. And once they finally get to your pick up your packet a year or 18 months from now, you will have that year of required physical presence after having won asylum. That's why I recommend that you apply for the green card right away. It just moves the process along faster. All right. SSS says, hey, Brian, thanks for the session. Is Las Vegas a good city for affirmative asylum? Also, what type of documents can I provide for an LGBTQ case? I don't have any right now. Thanks. Thank you. You're welcome. And thank you. Las Vegas is going to be under the Los Angeles Asylum office. And so, yeah, that's a good, yeah, they have a pretty high approval rate. I mean, look, it's still hard. Even the best offices in terms of the highest approval rate, like San Francisco, have a low approval rate. It's still way under 50%. But, you know, comparatively, comparing it with other asylum offices, yes, Los Angeles is good. That's who covers Las Vegas. So an officer from Los Angeles will be going to Las Vegas and conducting your interview at the USCIS field office in Las Vegas. All right. So, look, what you asked though about what documents can you provide for an LGBTQ case? Good question. The question is this: what kind of evidence should you provide in support of your case for an LGBTQ based case? Look, this is going to sound really crude, and it is. You have to prove that you're gay or that you're what USCIS calls a sexual minority. Okay, anything other than homosexual cisgender, than anything other than heterosexual cisgender. Okay, how do you do that? You got to provide stuff that looks gay to continue with the crudeness. If you have pictures of you at a pride parade, for example, or at a bar that clearly looks like a gay bar, that could be helpful. If you have text messages, WhatsApp messages of a sort of flirtatious or romantic nature exchange with someone, if you're gay, then exchange with someone with the same sex, that can help. If you have like a Grindr profile, for example, you would want to provide screenshots showing your engagement on Grindr, stuff like that. Okay, and I know it's demeaning to have to prove this about yourself in a way, but that's how it is. You have to convince them of this. And sometimes people do lie, right, about this. And so they do want to see things that make them think, yes, this seems like the kind of things that a person claiming to have this characteristic would be able to produce. They want to see those things. And so, yeah, that's the kind of things that you're going to provide. We help people with this, right? Like after we learn about our client's case, we make a list of specific things that we want them to try to get. We'll say, oh, you had this relationship with Jane. Try to get a letter from Jane discussing, these 3 specific things. We make a big list and tell you what you should try to get, and you try to get as much as you can of it. That's how it works with us. All right. What do you want to know about winning asylum in the United States? Okay. I want to address this issue of Actually, hold on. Before I do that, I want to address Vera's comment. Watching from Brooklyn, nice. New York, I love New York City. What's the average wait time for a green card based on asylum, based on your experience? I haven't checked in a couple months, but I think it was last I looked, it was probably I think it was like 14 or 16 months. It's not that long. It's over a year, so it's kind of long, but it's not like several years. Okay, it's pretty quick actually, and it may even be getting quicker. All right. However, that may change when USCIS starts doing re-interviews, which raises a question. And the question is this: what are these re-interviews USCIS has said they're going to do? Look, in a policy memorandum, which is basically just like guidance to USCIS officers, issued on December 2nd, 2025, USCIS said they're going to do reviews and in some cases re-interviews of immigration benefits that would include grants of asylum and grants of green card based on asylum for people who came to the U.S. Basically in the last 4.5 or well now 5 years, starting from when Joe Biden became president on that day in 2021. And so basically, if you've got an asylum or a green card based on asylum in the last 5 years, um, sorry, not for everyone, only for people that are from one of these 19 countries on this list that Trump made up of supposed high risk countries, which includes countries like Venezuela and Yemen, but a bunch of other ones as well, 17 additional ones. Then they're going to be doing these they're going to be looking at these cases carefully, and a lot of them probably they're going to do re-interviews, meaning they're going to look for supposedly national security and crime related things. However, the guidance says that they can also look for anything indicating that the person shouldn't have been granted the benefit, meaning like they were inadmissible at the time or ineligible for the benefit at the time it was granted. And this could include just like, oh, upon further review in your whole immigration file, we found some inconsistencies, some things, some statements, some things that look like they don't line up well, inconsistencies. Because of that, we think you were lying. And because of that, you were never eligible for asylum to begin with. And so we're going to re-interview you to ask you questions about this. And then we're probably going to try to take away your asylum status. Okay. It's serious. It's a big deal. People will be getting their asylum and even their green cards stripped from them and put into deportation proceedings as a result of this. So if any of you ever get a letter for a re-interview or a letter called a notice of intent to terminate your green card, your asylum status, or a notice of intent to rescind your permanent resident status, call an asylum lawyer immediately because this is serious stuff. You're at risk and you need help. Okay. It's a pretty big deal. There are going to be a lot of affected people from this. Okay. How long does it take to get an asylum interview with USCIS if I apply tomorrow? Yep. Good question. The question is this: when can you expect to get your asylum interview with USCIS if you're applying now? So, contrary to popular belief, you're probably going to get your interview right away, just within a few weeks, probably. All right. Everyone knows of people in their communities who've been waiting for years for an interview, 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, right? So it's natural for people to think like, oh, if I apply now, I'll be waiting for several years because everyone else is waiting for several years. But it's not like that. It's complicated. The reasons behind how USCIS scheduling priorities work for scheduling the interviews, it's a long story, but it is the case that people who are applying now, most of them are getting their interview within just a few weeks. So you got to be ready. You got to be ready to go. And this is true even with the pause at present on issuing of decisions in USCIS asylum cases. Even with this pause in place, they're still doing the interviews. They're still accepting applications and they're still doing the interviews. You got to be ready to go. I hope you have an asylum lawyer. I hope they're helping you. I hope they're helping you to put together your case on paper, to fight your case, present your case on paper. And most importantly, most crucial, I hope they're helping you to prepare intensively for the interview, including, ideally, most importantly, through a practice interview, a full-scale mock interview. All right. That's the most important thing you can do to maximize your chances for asylum success is a mock interview. And we actually offer this as a standalone service um, to people that, that maybe are not in a position to hire us for full scale representation. Like if maybe, you don't have the resources to be able to afford hiring us for like full representation, or there's not enough time before your interview. In those cases, people can hire us for just the preparation, okay, for the mock interview, and then a follow-on debrief session that we do, where we give you feedback and all of our best tips. We're also going to give you access to the recordings of those 2 practice sessions. We're going to give you the video and audio recordings and transcripts and summaries, so you can keep studying those materials, keep improving, keep practicing up until the day of your interview. We can do this on a very short notice. If your interview is, you can hire us for that service, the preparation service, with as little as 5 days remaining before your interview. We can do this quickly. We can get it done. And it costs a fraction of what it costs to hire us for full scale representation. Okay. To hire us for your USCIS asylum case from beginning to end is, I think, $11,000. But our interview preparation service as a standalone service is less than $3,000. It's $2,997. But not everyone qualifies. I want you to do a consultation with my team first. We want to get to know you. We want to understand your situation, understand your case, and tell you whether we think we're in a position to really help you. If we think that we are, we're going to explain to you in detail exactly what that looks like, what exactly we're going to do to help you maximize your chances for asylum success. And it all starts with a consultation. Go to this URL. If you want to schedule a consultation to see if we might be able to help you, we would love to talk. Go to winasylum.com. WINASYLUM.com. That's winasylum.com. 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 Dunya says the 19 countries based on nationality or place of birth. Actually, either one. The policy memorandum does say this. It says either if you're a citizen of one of these countries or you were born in one of them, even if you're not a citizen of one of them, then you're considered from that country for purposes of this review and possible re-interview. Okay. Will they be re-interviewing only people from high-risk countries or anyone granted asylum starting 2021? Doesn't matter how it was granted, USCIS or Immigration Court. Does not matter whether it was, strike that. It will just be USCIS. It will just be people granted by USCIS. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. The memo doesn't explicitly say this, but it makes, based on what I know about USCIS, it makes in the system, it makes sense that it would just be USCIS grants. Okay, and it will just be people from those 19 countries, but it doesn't mean that you're not at risk at all if you're not from one of those 19 countries, because they've always had the power to do this. They've always had the power to look at a case and say, you know what? We think that there was fraud. We think you were lying. Therefore, we're going to try to take away your asylum status. They do this through this process called the termination process, where they issue a notice of intent to terminate, NOIT. We call it a NOIT for its initials, NOIT, NOIT. And basically, it's a letter you get that says, hey, we intend to take away your asylum status for the following reasons, but we're going to give you an interview to ask some questions about it and give you a chance to try to change our minds. And so, that's something they do. And once they do that, it's hard to stop them from taking your asylum. We represent people in these, what we call a termination interview, and it's hard to win. Okay. It's not impossible, but you gotta really be prepared for that interview and really be ready to make a strong case about why they're wrong and why you should keep your asylum status. Okay. One of the things that I'm really worried about during these re-interviews is that I'm afraid that even when they don't find any kind of national security indicators or any fraud indicators, they may still try to strip your asylum status based on changed conditions. It's actually always been the case that USCIS could do this. They could say, you know what? We gave you asylum 5 years ago, but things have changed. The people you were afraid of are gone. That government that you were afraid of is out of power. The country's at peace. Things are better. you don't need asylum anymore. We're taking it away from you. They've always been able to do that. That's why you want to move to your green card as soon as possible. Okay. Uh, that's one of the reasons. But they've always had the power to do that, but they just don't do it normally. They very rarely say, we're going to take away your asylum because conditions have changed and we think you don't need protection anymore. But I think that they're going to probably use that as an excuse now under this administration, under the Trump administration. I think that in these re-interviews they're talking about doing, and I expect to actually do, I think they will use change conditions as an excuse, as a reason to strip people of their asylum status. So, it's kind of like you got to be ready to. Basically, it's almost like presenting the case anew. You have to explain why you're still at risk, why you still have a well-founded fear of persecution on account of a protected ground in your country. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Kevin says, my asylum was granted under Biden's last month. However, I entered under Trump's first term. Will I be re-interviewed? Probably not, because the policy memorandum says for people who entered after, but under Biden, not who got their approval under Biden, but rather who entered under Biden. Because that's their like excuse or their reason, their justification for this is, oh, the people that came in weren't vetted well. The people that, the vetting systems to bring people in weren't good enough, and we need to make them better or look at them carefully. So probably not, Kevin. You're probably not at risk there. All right. Look, so Leonardo says, hey, Brian, Leo here. Thanks for everything. You're welcome. Our pleasure. Quick question. Can the wife, husband of an asylee travel to their home country? Good question. The question is this. If you are a dependent in an asylum claim, like let's say your spouse was the principal applicant and they win their case and therefore you get asylee status through them, can you travel back to your country while you have this asylee status, or would that be dangerous for your immigration status here or for your spouse's immigration status here? Look, it's clear. Most people know that the principal applicant shouldn't go back to their home country until they get, in my opinion, until they get U.S. citizenship. Whether their spouse is okay to go back depends on it largely depends on, what the claim was about. If the claim was, oh, the bad guys were threatening to harm my entire family. They said, we're going to, go after your whole family. And then one of the family members goes back home and then they return to the United States and nothing, they were fine when they were home. It raises the question of, well, was the family ever really at risk in the first place? And that could be a reason for USCIS to start the termination process to try to take away your asylum. So that would definitely be risky. Honestly, I think under the current administration, it's probably pretty risky for any family member to go back. Even if the claim, any family member included in the claim, even if the claim doesn't have anything to do with like the family and it's rather based just on something that's unique to the principal applicant, I think it's pretty risky with the Trump administration. I probably wouldn't recommend doing that. Unfortunately, I know that's tough to hear. I know. All right. Nice. Is everyone going to get a re-interview if they're from those 19 countries with asylum status? Can they just blanket issue a NOIT to every asylee? Okiwan, the policy memorandum makes it sound like it's not going to be a blanket NOIT or a blanket re-interview for everyone, but rather it says it's going to be done on a case. There's going to be a case-by-case review. I think according to the memo, they're supposed to review every case of everyone who entered starting from January, I think it was 20th or 21st of 2021, and was granted an immigration benefit. They're supposed to review those cases. But then they'll only re-interview people that they have questions about, where they think that there's something that looks fishy or weird, or they will not call every single one of these people from the 19 countries for a re-interview. No. All right. Nice. Nice. How many years to get the asylum interview if you applied in 2021? Good question. The question is this: how long are you going to have to wait? How much longer are you going to have to wait for your asylum interview if you applied several years ago, like 2021? Look, you're not going to get your interview for probably many years unless you sue the government to force it, okay? If you didn't get your interview within about 4 to 8 months, 4 to 6 months, maybe even of applying, then you almost certainly have fallen into the backlog to this long queue, and you're probably not going to get your interview for many years unless you sue. At my law firm, we think that if you have been waiting 5 years or more for your asylum interview, then you're in a good position to have success with a mandamus lawsuit. This is a lawsuit we use. We do it all the time in my office to force the government to give people their asylum interview, to move their stalled case forward. We love it. Our clients love it because it works. When you hit that 5-year mark, call me, or just before, a few months before, call me. Let's talk through your case. Let's see if it makes sense to do in your situation. We'll tell you all about it, how it works, break it all down for you, and we can see about possibly getting your stalled case unstuck so you can win your case and move forward with certainty about your future in America. Okay. It all starts with the consultation. Schedule that consultation at winasylum.com. 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 All right. Thank you very much for your help on this matter, says Leo. You're welcome. My pleasure. All right. Nice. Both spouses applied for EAD. Wife's approved within a few months, but husband. All right. Look, approved asylum. Both spouses applied for EAD. Wife's approved within a few months, but husband's EAD is pending for almost a year with no result. You've inquired multiple times. I would consider suing. Yeah. Mandamus, it can work for this too. Yep. Well, okay, look, you got to decide though. You have asylum approved. How bad does your husband really need the EAD? You don't technically need it to work. You can work legally without it. But as a matter of convenience, practicality, a lot of employers do want to see that document because they don't understand. They don't believe you when you're like, oh no, I promise I can work legally without a work permit because I have asylum. And here's the I-94 showing that I have asylee status. They want to see the work permit card. So as a matter of convenience, yeah, if it helps you to get along with your life and keep your job by having that card, then you can consider suing. Does the law firm provide mandamus services for asylum-based green card adjustments? Yes. Yep. Okiwan, if you've been waiting for a while for that, schedule a consultation. We love suing the government. Look, guys, two things about this mandamus. One, let me preface this by saying past results don't guarantee future success, but we filed over 200 of these. We have not lost a single one yet. Okay. There's no good. That doesn't mean we're going to win your case or your case or your case or your case or your case. But I bring this up to emphasize that, yeah, it's a powerful tool, that it works really well. Our clients love it because it works. And so if you're sick of waiting and you want to move on with your life, whether it's to get your interview or to get your green card, if those cases are stalled and you want to move them forward, you should think about suing. Okay. The other thing that I want to say about mandamus is that we're offering a special in January, only in January, whereby if you hire us for mandamus, we're going to give you a discount if you hire us in January. If you want to hire us just for mandamus, it's a $500 discount. If you want to hire us for mandamus plus representation in your underlying asylum case, it's $1,000 discount. Okay. So it's significant. It's only in January. you have to do a consultation and you have to hire us in January to get this discount. And I got to tell you, our consultation spots, the availability is going to fill up very quickly. I've mentioned this discount a couple times on these lives the last few days, but starting Monday, we're going to start promoting this heavily. This discount this Monday of next week, and once we start promoting this heavily, like telling everyone about it everywhere, our consultation slots are going to fill up because people want to get this discount. Okay, and so if you don't do a consultation, you can't hire us for this service. We have to talk with you. We have to talk through your case, make sure we think we can help you, and make sure you understand the potential benefits as well as the risks, the trade-offs. So we have to do it. We want to do a consultation. Okay, we have to do one for this. So, if you think you might want our help with a case, and you want to do your consultation in the coming weeks, and definitely if you want to get this discount for mandamus, you need to do your consultation in January, which means you need to schedule it now. Because once I start promoting this heavily on Monday, our consultation slots in January are going to fill up very quickly. Okay, so don't wait. If you think you might want our help, go to winasylum.com and schedule it now. I just checked right before I got on here. I just checked. We have like a couple of slots open for next Friday of next week. But I'm telling you, when we start promoting this on Monday, the whole month is probably going to fill up within a couple of days or something. So go now. Go to winasylum.com and schedule that consultation now. Okay. I'm looking for asylum filing and representation cost, please. I said it earlier, but hold on. Let me just make sure that I don't want to mislead you. So look, it depends, right? It depends on whether your case is with the immigration court or at the asylum office. So let me ask you that. Who said that? That was Munguching. Is your case, will it be with USCIS or are you in immigration court proceedings? Let me know. Okay. Look, I'm going to assume that you are talking about an affirmative asylum case with USCIS, in which case the question is this. What do we charge for an affirmative asylum case with USCIS? $10,000. Right now, at the time that I'm doing this show, this live, that's probably about to go up. Right now, $10,000. You don't have to pay all that at once. We do like a phased payment thing where you pay $4,000 to start, okay, and then later you make a payment at a certain phase in your case. You make a payment of $2,500, and then later in the case, at a certain point, you make a payment of $3,500. You add that up, it gets you to $10,000. So it's $4,000 to get started, okay. Total of $10,000, and this is a little bit on the high side. Like it's higher than most immigration lawyers. It's not the highest. You'll find higher out there, but it's higher than most. I think we do more than most people. I think we actually improve your chances for success more than most immigration law firms. We have a lot of smart, hardworking, sophisticated people with impressive credentials working for us that actually care about the cases. And I have to pay them a lot of salary to attract them and keep them. But I would rather do that and charge more and work around great people and do great work for our clients and have a good success rate and put together strong cases and do a good job and try hard. And that costs money. And so that's why our fees are higher than most other immigration law firms. But it all starts with a consultation. If you want to talk with us about possibly getting our help and seeing what we think, go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com. Schedule that consultation now. Those spots are going to fill up for January very, very quickly. So let's schedule it now, okay? Brian, thanks for the great training and question regarding Emmanuel, who was denied really unfairly. How did you manage to win that case? I'm not sure who you're talking about, Nona. You said he was denied unfairly. How did you manage to win that case? Are you talking about one of our clients that got maybe a notice of intent to deny, but then we ended up helping them win the case? Is that what you're talking about? I'm not sure who you're talking about or what you're talking about, but yeah, maybe you could be more specific. But look, if it's not your case, then don't use the person's full name. unless they've given you permission to talk publicly about their case. All right. We want to respect our clients' privacy. And so I encourage you to help us do that. All right. Can I travel with my EAD card? Um, do you mean, Leonardo, do you mean domestically? Yeah, I'm just reading your question again. Um, yes, it's a real ID document. Yes. Yep. Good news for you. All right. For those who just joined recently, I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now I have a law firm. It's called Political Asylum Lawyers, and we help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Doesn't matter where you are. We're based in Houston, Texas, but it doesn't really matter because we help immigrants all over the country. Okay, doesn't matter where you are. All over the United States. Oh, 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 no, no, no. You're talking about the training. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Um, you're talking about the training. Okay, yeah. No, Nona is talking about the training webinar that we have. It's free. You can access it and sign up for it at asylumprep.com. Go to asylumprep.com. Asylumprep.com. Asylumprep.com for a free asylum training. Okay. So it's about the interview. It's focused on the asylum interview. What did you ask though up above? Oh, how did you manage to win that case? I mean, by doing the things I talked about in the training, right? The key was preparation. The key was the preparation, the mock interview. That's the most important part, by getting him really prepared through the mock interview and the debrief session, and then all the special tool trainings and additional trainings and tools that we provide through what we call the mock asylum interview experience. That's our preparation service. I mean, those tools, the practice that we did with him, is how he was able to win. All right. That is, yeah, that's it. Again, Nono's talking about the webinar that I have, free asylum interview training, which you can access at asylumprep.com, asylumprep.com, asylumprep.com. You can go there now. If you want to learn some insights gained from my time on the other side of the desk about the asylum interview and what you could do to maximize your chances for asylum success. Are the immigration courts, 23 drone view says, are the immigration courts in New Jersey giving decisions on asylum cases? Are they also on hold? They're not on hold. There's the pause in issuing of asylum decisions only applies to USCIS. It does not apply to immigration court, which doesn't make sense, right? I mean, the justification for the decision pause is like, oh, we need to do a better job of vetting people. The vetting is, why would you make it different for USCIS than for immigration court? Like, why would USCIS need more vetting than the immigration court? In fact, people that have a case with USCIS usually do have more vetting than was done for immigration court, because most people with USCIS came here on a visa. And that means they got vetted by the U.S. Department of State and by a Customs and Border Protection officer upon arrival, instead of just by USCIS using their databases. So really, affirmative cases have greater vetting for the life cycle of their immigration process than immigration court cases. Yet the Trump administration's pause on decisions premised on needing to do better vetting applies only for affirmative cases and not for defensive cases for some reason. Makes no sense to me. What's the odds of success for a Syrian who's an ex-Muslim? Mally wants to know. There's probably a chance. There's probably a chance. I mean, look, it's not as simple though as me just saying, oh, any Syrian who renounces Islam or changes religions is going to have a good case or a good chance for success. It's not that simple. We need to talk. We need to get to know you. We want to understand the facts, the particulars of your circumstance, of your case. Um, and we do that in the context of an asylum strategy session. Look, our consultations are not like a 10-minute surface, superficial chat. It's nearly an hour long. It's 50 minutes, 50, almost an hour, where we're going to go deep. We're going to get to know you. We're going to get to really ask you a lot of questions about your situation, about your case, and assess whether we think we're in a position to help you. If we think that we are, we're going to give you a really detailed breakdown of exactly what that looks like. Most lawyers you talk with in a consultation won't explain what they're going to do to help you. Do you know why? Most of them don't have an actual plan. They don't have a strategy. They don't have a framework that they pursue to build and present a case. They just kind of wing it, and they've never really thought through how exactly to systematize putting together a strong asylum case. They don't have a theory. They don't have a framework. They don't have a strategy, but we do, and we're going to tell you all about it in a consultation, or what we call an asylum strategy session. So if you want to learn about that, go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com. Blessing Marubu says, do you think a letter of recommendation of good character would be helpful in an asylum case? Good question. The question is this: would recommendation letters around your character help your asylum case? So, for some immigration cases, it can be really helpful to show that you have what's called good moral character. And you get this by having friends, family members, colleagues, other people, who know you, write letters that talk about how you're a good person, basically. No, it doesn't help an asylum. Not worth trying to get. In fact, it's counterproductive. In an asylum case, you only want to put before the officer documents or testimony that is relevant to the asylum eligibility analysis. The officer in an asylum case doesn't care whether you're a good person. They don't care whether you're a nice person, that they don't care that you are active in your community and you do charity, you give money to charity. They don't care that you own a business and you employ US citizens. They don't care about that stuff. They want to know whether you meet the strict asylum eligibility requirements. So that's what you should focus on. So no, I think that you should not include character reference letters about your character for your asylum case. All right. New Jersey, our interview schedule, you mean hearing is scheduled for May 2026. Is it possible to go for WebEx interview where one of your clients? You mean if you are, or are you telling me you are? There's a question mark after that 23 drone view. I'm not sure if you are a client or if you're asking if you were to be one of our clients, could we go for WebEx? Well, in any case, doesn't matter. The answer is yes. Well, we can try. We normally do try. We normally do try to do WebEx for the immigration court hearings. We think it's better for our clients. And so we usually ask the judge that. Sometimes they say yes. Sometimes they say no. If they say yes, great. We'll do it by video conference. If they say no, we'll go in person. We'll do what we have to do. All right. All right. Vera says, I've heard that immigration lawyers who help immigrants are being targeted because of the current sentiment. Is this something to be afraid of? I mean, I can't say it hasn't crossed my mind. I've heard troubling stories about this, yes. So is it something to be afraid of? Kind of. Yeah. I'm not letting it affect my work. Like it's not such a big deal that I'm like, step back or hide. No, it's not like that. But is it troubling? Yes. Barry wants to know, what's your experience with female genital mutilation? Does your firm have experience in these? The question is this. So in my law firm, do we have experience with female genital mutilation or FGM cases? And yeah, we've handled quite a few of these, and we've had a lot of success with them. These are tricky. Look, it seems like it should be easy to win, especially if the client has actually suffered FGM. It seems like it should be easy to win, but I got to tell you, it's not as easy as it might sound, especially not in the current context with the Trump administration. So you got to be careful. You got to be strategic and smart about how you build the case, how you present it, and most importantly, you got to be really prepared to do a great job with your testimony. That what you say on the day of your interview, not just for FGM cases, for all cases, what you say on the day of your interview is the most important thing. It's way more important than your documents. It's way more important than anything else in your case. But you can practice for this. You can prepare for this and greatly improve your performance through practice. And we do that for our clients through what we call the mock asylum interview experience. But we actually also offer this preparation service as a standalone service for people that aren't in a position to hire us for full scale representation, maybe because of the money or because of the time. There's just not enough time before their interview. We offer this preparation service as a standalone service, so it's much cheaper than hiring us for normal representation, and we can do it quickly. You can hire us with just a few days before your interview, and we can get this done quickly. If you want to learn about that though, I do a consultation so we can talk through it and see if you qualify. Go to winasylum.com, okay, WINASYLUM.com to schedule a consultation. We want to talk. Let's do that. All right. All right. Nice. Do the asylum officers ask you to prove your atheism and how to do so? I had to hide and I don't want to anymore. Look, if you have things that you can point to that help to show it, then sure, you should try to get those things as evidence. Like maybe you've sent emails or text messages or WhatsApp messages to people where you talk about this, where you're like, hey, I don't believe anymore. I'm now an atheist or something like that. That you've had this conversation with people before in the past. That can be evidence that you can print screenshots of. Okay. Otherwise, or in addition to that, you need to be ready to just explain your evolution, your history, and your thinking, your thought process, your evolution in moving toward your current religious beliefs or lack of religious beliefs. Okay. They want to know, has someone gone through, can you talk like someone who has really gone through this kind of process? Do you sound like someone who has actually had this evolution in their life, who came to a very different, belief system and worldview? So you've got to be able to talk fluently about your experiences around your faith and your changing beliefs. Okay, and you can practice that. You need to practice that. We do that with our clients in a mock interview through the mock asylum interview experience. Okay. All right. Nice. What are the chances of winning a case for someone who overstayed as a minor and applies for affirmative asylum years later as an adult? Good question. The question is this. Can you win asylum if you came to the United States as a minor on a visa, overstayed that visa, and you've been here for many years since then, now as an adult, and you're now applying for asylum as an adult many years after coming, many years after turning 18? Can you win asylum? And the answer is maybe. It's going to be tough though. Look, you're going to have to establish an exception to the 1-year filing deadline, and this is hard. This is a tricky, sophisticated area of immigration law when we're talking about exceptions to the 1-year filing deadline. But it's not impossible to do. Lots of people do it. We've helped lots of people show that they meet one of the exceptions to the 1-year filing deadline, such that they can get asylum even if they've been here for several years. But we need to talk through that, right? Like I urge you to talk with an asylum lawyer about this before applying to make sure it makes sense. And help you understand, the trade-offs, the risks, and, assess whether you might be in a, likely to benefit to establish an exception to the 1-year filing deadline. Okay. All right. Your evolution sounds sophisticated. Thanks, I guess, Christian. Is that a compliment? I don't know. It feels kind of like one. So thanks. Raul says, I've been watching your channel for quite some time. Thanks for being a fan. What if someone has a valid had a valid tourist visa and they wanted to come to the U.S. and file for asylum in 2026, yeah, I mean, you could do it if you, yeah, it's the system is open. It's not closed. Like there's a pause at this moment on the issuance of decisions in affirmative asylum cases with USCIS, but they're still accepting applications. They're still doing interviews. They're just not hitting submit to finalize a decision right now. But I expect that they will. The pause will be lifted. So yeah, if you are afraid of being harmed in your country, and you want to get out and you want to flee, then and you end up coming here, then yeah, it would make sense to talk with an asylum lawyer about possibly applying for asylum to see if it makes sense in your case. But I mean, yeah, generally speaking, it's like, yes, people will keep coming here and keep applying for asylum, including in 2026. Okay. And we're going to keep winning cases. I am confident we're going to keep winning cases, including in 2026. All right. All right. Been Brian watching from Vancouver, says Brian Wakio. Vancouver, Washington. Vancouver, Washington. Interesting. I didn't know there was a Vancouver, Washington. I applied for asylum in 2021. I left out a few things. Am I able to add the details? Also came on an F1 visa. Yeah. Look, the question. Yes. So the question is this: what should you do if you left out some details when you applied for asylum? Like, let's say you applied and maybe you also submitted a declaration where you explained your case in writing, but you realize later that you left out some details that you think are important. You want the officer to know. What should you do? Well, look, this is a difficult question, a tough decision to make about whether to formally submit something, where like a supplemental statement, like, oh, this is an addition, to my original statement, a supplemental statement, because I forgot some stuff. Or to just wait and just talk about it at your interview. That's a pretty tough decision. Usually though, we recommend the latter. Usually we do not have our clients submit like a supplemental statement or a follow-on statement to update stuff that they forgot. But we do want them to talk about it during the interview. Okay. It's weird how officers are like this, but in my experience, they are, in the sense they look at it skeptically when someone submits an additional declaration, like a supplemental declaration. But we definitely don't want you to just leave it out. If it's true and it's relevant, we want you to talk about it at your interview. So usually my recommendation to our clients is we're not going to do a supplemental declaration, but we do want you to talk about it during your interview. Okay. Are they issuing NOIDs despite the asylum pause? Yes, they are. Yes. Is it a good sign if they don't issue it to you a month and a half after the interview? No. It doesn't mean. No. No. It doesn't mean anything. The fact that you've been waiting for a month and a half doesn't tell us anything about whether they're going to approve your case or give you a notice of intent to deny, or if you're out of status, give you a referral notice. It doesn't tell us anything about your chances for success or the outcome. Okay. Are interviews being conducted in the U.S. after the pause, or do applicants need to go to a third country for a USCIS interview? Says Joseph. They're being conducted in the U.S. Asylum interviews are never conducted in a third country, in a foreign country. They're only conducted in the United States. You've heard of refugees, right? Some people are brought to the United States as refugees. Those people have what's called a refugee interview abroad while they're in another country, done by USCIS refugee officers. But for anyone who's in the United States and applies for asylum, they're going to have their asylum interview in the United States. They're not going to have an interview abroad. But to answer your question, yeah, they are still doing interviews. Okay. Foldability. Says Brian, I need a lawyer to fix this pre-termination of my asylum process by DHS in court and send the case to Uganda. How can you help me, sir? This is tough. I'm really sorry that you're in this difficult position. to be clear, it sounds from what you're saying like you got a removal order already based on what they call an asylum cooperative agreement or a third country agreement with Uganda. Is that where it stands right now? You got a removal order, but you've not yet appealed it, and you're looking at maybe appealing it. Is that what you're asking about foldability? Um, Schedule a consultation so we can talk through it. Okay, we would like the chance to talk with you about it and tell you what we think. Okay, but that's I can't. It's not something I can address in a live like this. Really, it's too complicated. Um, but we want to hear from you. Go to winasylum.com and schedule a consultation. Okay. Luke says, I used to be a lawyer. Now I'm retired. I was a lawyer for Sam Bernstein in Detroit. Cool. Thanks for being on, Luke. Nice. Specialized in vehicle felonies. Interesting. How long will it take for me to be eligible for a work permit? The question is this. How long after you apply for asylum will it take for you to get your work permit, your employment authorization document, EAD? About 6 months. So look, 180 days after you apply for asylum, you're eligible to apply for your work permit. And then it takes them, 150 days after you apply for asylum, you're eligible to apply for your work permit. They can't actually issue it until you reach 180 days post-application. And so, I mean, basically it's about 6 months, 6.5, 7 months, probably on average 6.5 months that we see people getting their work permit in the mail in their hand. If they apply right away at 150 days, then the time from application for asylum to receiving the work permit in the mail is about maybe 6.5 months. So that's good news. And that's been consistent, including with the Trump administration. That's still moving along quickly like that. So at least for now. So that's good news, right? Right. Yep. Okay. Foldability says no, they gave me time to respond. Foldability, do you have something in writing from them, like an order about this? First of all, a couple questions. Did you have a lawyer at that hearing? What did they? Did you have a lawyer? Do you have something in writing? If you have something in writing about this from the judge, send it to me and schedule a consultation. Send it to me at info@politicalasyluMlawyers.com. I'm going to put that in the chat. info@politicalasyluMlawyers.com. You can say, hey, Brian said on a YouTube live that I should send this document and I'm going to schedule a consultation. Okay. Info@politicalasyluMlawyers.com and schedule a consultation. Schedule a consultation at winasylum.com. WINASYLUM.com. When's your also foldability? When's your deadline to respond? Just curious. All right. Yeah, I'm sorry though that you're in this difficult position. That stinks. It's tough. It's really tough. Okay. Nice. Very nice. All right, guys. That's actually going to be it for today. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer, but now I'm an asylum lawyer, and we help immigrants now all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. So if you think you might want help with your case, go to winasylum.com and schedule a consultation. WINASYLUM.com. That's winasylum.com. Go there. Let's talk. All right. All right, guys. If we don't join up on this live again tomorrow on New Year's Eve, then I hope that you have a great New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and look forward to engaging with you and supporting you in the new year. And as always, it really is a pleasure and an honor to support you in your asylum journey. Thanks, guys. Have a good